Cliff, I have doubts. And Lisa and I went through this and still go through this, trying to work through the pain and suffering. What do you do with doubt? Because, I mean, we all deal with it.
Oh, it's very simple. I just deny it. I stick my head in the sand like an ostrich, and I say, I don't have any doubts. I'm a true believer.
Yeah.
That's idiocy, Cliff. You've got to face your doubts. You can't run away from them. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with God. Now just look at the Psalms. Just look at Moses and Abraham. Just read Genesis chapter 18. Abraham standing over the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Hey, God, you're going to wipe those places out if there are 50 righteous people? What about 45? What about 40? What about 30? What about 20? What about 10? Hey, Abraham, why did you stop at 10? Why didn't you go 9, 8, 7 righteous people down there? What are you going to do with it, Lord? You see, what Abraham is doing is he's struggling through the question, will the judge of the whole earth do right? Well, how many of us struggle with that? How many of us in Ed's position are struggling with, God, why did you allow my daughter to die? We all struggle with it, don't we? And we doubt, and I doubt. But then you got to think through, okay, is God a Scrooge? Is God an ogre? No, the cross of Christ proves that God is not an ogre. He suffered. He sacrificed to give us the solution for suffering and death. He's not an ogre. He's good. Then you got to look at the alternatives. And that's what I like to do. I like to speak tomorrow, as I will, at the University of Texas, Austin. And when the first skeptic comes forward, I'm going to be driving towards one thing. I'm going to answer his question. I'm going to ask him, what are you living for? And what's the evidence that what you are living for is true? Those two questions. Learn to ask those two questions. What are you living for? And don't give me an answer you don't know what you're living for. Fine, that's an unexamined life. Now think about it. You're dressed a certain way, you speak in an articulate way, you know that you're living for something or someone. You have priorities, you have ambitions. You're not an accident. You're not here by chance. Okay, so what are you living for? And what's the evidence of what you are living for is the truth? And friend, I have gotten the most hollow, the most poorly thought through answers from some of the most brilliant people in this country to those two questions. I live for Christ. Why? Because the evidence of his amazing lifestyle, his incredible ethical teachings, his amazing death, loving and forgiving his enemies, and his resurrection from the dead points to him being totally reliable.